What is up, beautiful people? Today, we're going to talk about a heroic dose of mushrooms that I did about 2 years ago. So, you know, let's start off with the cigar. So, this is a handmade cigar. Um, it's got a USA broadleaf on the wrapper, and then a Nicaraguan binder and a Nicaraguan aged filler. Beautiful, beautiful jalapa filler. So, we're going to cut it right here, and then we're going to get to this trip report of a heroic dose of mushrooms. And it was my second ever trip. And psychedelics are something that I want to talk about more. Um, actually go into depth with them and their benefits and all that stuff, because I have a lot of, you know, I'm not the most experienced, but I consider myself a psychonaut at this point. Um, but you know, there's a lot. Like I feel like there's not enough videos on YouTube actually explaining experiences and then making it like enjoyable, like a cool story. So that's what we're trying to do here. Let's cut this. So, scoop, bang. So for those of you that are new here, I make cigars. So yeah, that's why I have a cigar, and I love them. So we have the cigar here, and then I got my drink with it. Today we got um, organic coffee, mold-free coffee with raw milk cream. You know, the raw milk, the cream rises to the top. I just strain it off. Delicious. I feel like a real Italian. Let's like this. Now, this is my first time using a different filler. I usually use Virginia, but I got my hands on some jalapa aged Nicaraguan leaf. So we're gonna see the smoke. I stopped using a torch lighter um because it was, I've heard that it can burn the tobacco and make it taste funny. So we're gonna see what it's like with just a regular good old Bic lighter. That's such a weird name, Bic lighter. And something I've learned is that you want to puff, or what do you okay, pause on this, but you want to suck to get the fire going. Like get the bro, get the part that you're smoking a little bit wet, and then just keep puffing on it to keep the fire burning, and then it'll burn the whole time. Like that. And those of you watching this probably already know. You're like, oh, I already know this. I'm like, okay, I don't. All right, so let's get started on this. First, what am I tasting? Tasting like, I'm trying to like, I suck at this. Like, okay, I suck at describing textures of things, like with wines and even coffee. So I'm trying to get better at that. How, you can really taste the effect of something, and you just need experience with that. But I kind of I like this better than I've made this really good. I feel like because it's not like so. There's been times where I'd make cigars and that the taste was like it was too sharp. I feel like this is actually pretty smooth. And I tried to make like a Churchill, like the super long ones that Winston, I think it was Winston Churchill that used to smoke them. They're so sick. They're like really long and like you just puff them like feel like a president. All right, so let's get into this trip report. Long ass intro. Okay, so I did 5 grams of mushrooms on my second trip. It was a chocolate bar. So I just got into them. This was about like January 2023, so 2 years ago, and a little bit more than 2 years ago. But I told my, that I feel like I've always had good people around me. Like I've told my managers. I was working as a butcher at the time. I told my managers, I was like, yeah, I found this chocolate bar. This company sells mushrooms, and so he got one. One of my managers got one, and then I got one, and then we did it. But it's fucking on my neck. And then lo and behold, we did it, and I did the whole thing. So my first trip was amazing, right? And we'll talk about it that in the future. But um, but and then I was, naive and thinking that I could just keep upping the dose, but that's not how psychedelics work. I wish everyone would know this. If you're looking to get into psychedelics, um, just be careful. Dosage matters. That's most, in my opinion, the most important thing. Um, of course, your set and setting, whatever, but like, don't think that this is like you can develop a tolerance, but like, don't think this is like marijuana or like anything else. These things are completely different. They're not drugs. They deserve their own. I mean, weed isn't a drug, but like, they deserve their own set of rules and guidelines, right? Because you can't just go into this thing and, I'm just doing fucking. No, I always suggest that if you're doing psychedelics, you take them seriously. Now, you have a few trips, whatever. There's a bee on my coffee. Jesus fuck. You have a few trips or whatever. You can do them for fun in the forest, whatever. Yeah, but always be careful. You've been warned. um, so yeah, I realized that I could just 2 grams was good, so I can go to fucking 5 grams. It's looking back, it was like, what the fuck, man. So I did a heroic dose of mushrooms without actually realizing it. Like, I kind of knew, but like, I was just stupid. I didn't know. And even with all, I was pretty mature, so at least I like to think so. But even with that, I just made that mistake, and I had a fun time. So yeah, what happened? And I have it all written down. I have it all written down. Just sit back, relax. We're gonna talk about it. So yeah, 5 grams of mushrooms is what I did. So my manager got one, I got one. We did it, and I started off, 2 grams, half, not even half, like a few bars of chocolates was about 2 grams, 3 grams, and then like an hour into it, I was like, this isn't enough. This isn't enough, and I did more, and you know, I'd say this was my first, not my first. I've had a couple of mystical experiences that weren't due to psychedelics, which I think is important. Like, you need like a few mystical experiences to like, without psychedelics. Like, you need it before you start psychedelics. You need just a groundwork of just spiritual work and personal development work, and just enjoying your life. That foundation is so important, because you can't go into them just needing something, and you need this. You're like a fucking vampire. You're just needy little baby. You can't be like that. Got to really develop yourself. And you know, the catch 22. I think there's a catch 22 is that they can kind of help you with that, but just there's a lot of nuance. So yeah, I was already in a really decent place. I was struggling with a lot of things though, but I had that base foundation. Um, but I'd say this was my first mystical experience where it was like I was, out of body, fucking blasted. Um, I experienced nothing, what Buddhists call nothingness, the no self. I remember specifically, like, I closed my eyes. I was in the mirror just looking at myself. I disappeared, and I closed my eyes, and it was just a dot. And then that dot, when I opened my eyes, it just transformed, created everything. So and then something was telling me, it was like, this is why you're here, because if you're not here, then you're it's nothing, right? So you need, like, why is there the question, like, why is there something rather than nothing? The reason there's something is because nothing, well, the same thing. The universe just wanted to experience itself in all its different facets, and then this is particular dream is what's happening. So that's kind of what I experienced for in that aspect. And then I labeled the trip because my trip reports are very organized. I treat this seriously. It's like a job. The fuck is that? Is that my neighbor? I don't know what the fuck that was. But anyways, hold on. I spilled my coffee on the floor, by the way. Sucks. Before I got to get I had to get more. So yeah, I write it all down. And I wrote down, this trip really fucked me up. No shit. But I wrote down that it was dangerous, immature, but I feel this was the greatest thing that happened here because, this trip, I'll be honest, it messed me up for like probably like a month. Not messed me up. It was just I was different, and then it always stuck with me, and then I turned that into a beautiful thing. Because here's the thing that happened. It was, and this is, the benefits of bad trips. They're just truths that you're not ready for, and you have to be careful with how you manage that because truths that you're not ready for are important. Like, you can't just force yourself to see the truth of something and to see what's real because you may not be ready for it. That's the truth, you know. And damn. And what happened with me is that I reached like, God consciousness, all, oneness. I felt just oneness with everything. God consciousness. um I was everything. Everything was me. That type of consciousness. So what happened was that I reverted back to base level consciousness, this particular dream or the consciousness I was at. And I felt my ego again. My ego was there. Like before, when I reached God consciousness, my ego was dissolved almost. Was it really dissolved? I don't know, but it felt like it. And it was dissolved. So when I reverted back, when I came down from the trip, I was so sad. I was so sad. It was the sadness that I never experienced before. It's like I lost something. And what really happened, after a few years of integrating this, was that I just missed God consciousness. That's all that happened. Um, and I've gotten so much better because I've reached those states before, again, and it's so much better now. Now that I'm even aware of this as a thing. um, it's not like I'm doing this every week or every month. This is like a once a year thing. No, like reaching God consciousness, actually developing God consciousness. I'm not, if it happens, it happens. But right now in my life, I'm not purposely focused on that because, I'm young. I'm ambitious. I just want to live life like that. So this showed me, and I think I treated this as like a, almost like as a coming of age type thing. It was almost like a, if you ever read the book, what is it, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, they talk about the rite of passage as a boy into a man, and this is what it felt like because it never left me. No matter what I do, it was always like I'm in this mode of living, with this mode of consciousness, but there's something higher. There's always something. There's something greater out there, and I always believed this, right? I grew up Roman Catholic, whatever the fuck. I'm not anymore, as you can see, but my chicken's just screaming in the back. But but what it showed me is that I always believed that there was something higher, but I actually experienced that something higher. This is the two key distinctions. You could believe something, but that doesn't mean it's true. But direct experience, on the other hand, how can that not be true? Because you're directly experiencing it. You see it? Oh my God, I fucking spilled my coffee again. No matter. Godspeed. But yeah, you realize that there's a difference between direct experience and then beliefs. And really, spirituality is basically about living through direct experience and truth. That's at the end of the day, that's what spirituality is realizing truth. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I found truth or I've had experiences with truth, but I'm just not that developed. I'll be honest, I'm not that conscious to um, say what truth is or how to, because you can't really, you can lead someone to truth, you can guide them to truth, but I'm just not good enough at this moment. But this is what I feel like happened. Um, so all my life I believed that there was something higher, but I actually, and then after, maybe like 16, I got into spiritual work, stuff like that. And then 3 years after I did this happen, and then I already had that base. So it was actually a beautiful experience, a coming of age type thing. Um, and then it almost turned me into a man. I was so different. And it's not always perceptible to other people, but at the same time it is, because your outer world might stay the same at first because that takes a moment to shift, but then your internal world changes so drastically once when you start integrating it. it it's not like anything you've ever experienced. So this happened, and I came down to base level consciousness. My ego was back, and I was so sad. I felt jealousy again, I felt envy, I felt anger, all this stuff. Even I felt love. Well, I felt a biased sort of love again, right? I liked other things more than I liked this thing. But when I was at God consciousness, I was just, everything was I loved everything equally. There was no difference, But when I came back to my ego, I saw that I had biases, and that's fine. But it hurts when you're up there, when you're on a higher level of consciousness, and then you come back to it, because it feels so good. It's like an orgasm, like times fucking a billion. Not there's You can't even fucking describe it. It's quite crazy. And it changed my life in the sense where it was like there's an underlying there's a highness, there's God in everything. And then I started really working on appreciating everything, even stuff I don't like, because it's still God. It's just a lower manifestation of consciousness. The cigar is so good. Yo, this is fucking delicious. Did it go out? What the fuck? I wasn't puffing on it enough. There we go. But yeah, it was just a lower, um, everything, things that I don't like. It doesn't make them bad per se. It's just my bias. The only difference between, like, what's the difference between a Christian and a Jewish person? And they actually take religion seriously. The Christian believes that his view is right, and the Jewish person believes that their view is right. They're not even consciously doing this, by the way. They just blindly follow it. If they're, most Christians blindly follow their religion, and so do Jewish people, and so does everyone, even me. Like, I blindly, like, there's blind spots that I have, and I blindly follow my beliefs from fucking childhood or whatever, and I work on those. But what's the difference? It's literally just their perspective and bias. There's no difference except their perspective and biases. And spirituality is about cutting that shit and then getting to the truth. And I'm not saying you know, I'm just not ready for this work. I'm honest with you. I love psychedelics, and they're preparing me for something, in the future when I'm older, whatever. But at this time, I'm not ready for that. I'm honest with myself. But I'm not ready for that. But I'm I'm working on it. Right? There's a base level that you got to work on. Let's see what else I wrote. So what did I name this trip? I name every trip that I go on. So I named this "Find the Beauty in That," and this is because, so the night before, and this is when I was in God consciousness, I thought about that. Look at that smoke, baby. Let's go. um, so my mom was cleaning up after my brother. We were in high school. I wasn't in high school. I was out of high school. My brother was in high school, and my brother was kind of messy, whatever. So she was cleaning up after him, and so my mom said something like, "You gotta you know." I don't know, I was talking about just life and how there's so much out there, as I do. And my mom was like, I'm stuck cleaning up after Kojo for the rest of my life. Um, and I told her, I was like, there's beauty in that. And she was like, yeah, there is. And when I remembered that in God consciousness, I saw the beauty in that. It was so profound. Like, I can't even explain it. It was something so different, so just out of this world. There's a bee on my leg. Please don't fucking sting me. I'll let you stay. I'll let you stay there if you don't sting me, bro. That's a wasp. Shit. All right. Am I one with the bees? Let's see. If I get stung here, I'm fuck. Get off me. Get off. He likes the smoke. You don't like the smoke. He doesn't like the smoke. I think he's dying. I don't know. But I saw the beauty in that. It was so beautiful. Like a mother caring for her child, preparing him for life. It was so beautiful. I can't even explain it. But that's where I got the title. And you know, it, it was just like, and I started seeing this developed beauty consciousness within me. It awakened beauty consciousness within me. I began, throughout the years, I began to see the beauty in things and actually work on this when I'm sober. When I'm driving, when I'm walking, whatever, just living my life, I can see something and then penetrate the beauty of it. And this is something I've worked on and I'm getting better at because this is important. Because if you can't see the beauty of life and the inherent magic of consciousness, then you're gonna be a zombie, right? And this is, what a child has. Um, this is what a child has: the ability to just see the inherent beauty in everything without bias. That's important. And I say that even though I have biases, but that's what consciousness taught me. Let's see what else. I wrote a lot that it was a mystical experience, all that. So with the nothingness thing I was talking about, um, I wrote here. It was like after when I opened my eyes, I was like, I know why I'm here. I'm here to experience the contrast of life because it's fun, it's challenging, it's confusing, it's a maze, it's all over the place, and it's fun. It's a game. So I always try and keep that awareness, even when life is just fucking all over the place. I always remember that it's all just a blink at infinity. It's all a game that you're playing for the fun of it, for play. Because when you're not here, or at least in this dream, when you're in the nothingness, there's nothing. There's nothing to do. Everything's one. So what this is a manifestation of nothingness. There's something, but it's actually nothing at the same time. At least that's how I perceive it right now. Need some coffee. Excuse me. I like showing my whole body in the video. At least, fuck me, bro. Spilled again. We still got a little bit left. Fuck it. But yeah, I like showing my whole body in the camera. These bees are just fucking Jesus Christ. I like showing my whole body in the camera because I don't know. I feel like it's just more personal than showing my head. Like you can actually see my body, what I look like. So yeah, I plummeted to the depths of ego. So I gotta also. So I wrote, yeah, like I said, one of the biggest principles of life is finding the beauty in everything. Is being able to sense and be aware of the inherent beauty in everything, in a train, in a fucking plant, a flower, all this stuff. And that's something I had trouble doing without psychedelics. I didn't even know this was a possibility. So imagine giving someone psychedelics who's been living the same life for 50 years. Imagine giving them LSD or whatever, and if they take it seriously, that can radically transform their life. So you're living a mode, a particular dream, and then you take a psychedelic, and then what a psychedelic gives you is what fucking 50 years of intense meditation give you, it gives you in 5 minutes. So, that could be, remember, if you don't have that foundation, that could be dangerous. But if you have that foundation a little bit, um, you can enter a different dream and then realize that, what is this? You start questioning, what actually is this? And this is important work. This is so important. So important. So I also got an insight into it's getting hot out here, Jesus. I also got an insight into the nature of mushrooms and how mushrooms are the veins of the earth. Like, they are the communicators of the earth. They're all the under, like, it was so weird. I just saw mushrooms as a teacher, as a as an alive thing. I just can't understand it in this mode of consciousness that I'm in. Plants are always communicating with each other, and they're doing that through mycelium, through mushrooms. Not the fruiting part, but the mycelium under the ground. They're always moving. It's the internet. It's the internet of the earth. So nature has everything that we create. It's kind of sick. If someone can actually, you know, the day this happens, the day someone actually finds out how to communicate with mushrooms, um, fucking, I don't even know what to say. Life will literally, that's visionary. That's insane. That'll revolutionize humanity. It will, you know. And what else did I say? And this happens a lot, and this is why I I I what? I don't even know what I'm saying, but what I'm gonna say now. It happens a lot where it's like I do psychedelics, but then I see the work I do while I'm sober, and the improvement in my relationships, my own life's purpose, my work, my ability to be focused and disciplined, and just work. And I see the development, as a man I've become, and I just cry. I literally just cry because I see that it's all working out, that it's all just a beautiful thing, that I can just be a man in this world, and really develop myself into a conscious man. And I say man, that's my limited finite self. This is what God consciousness awakened in me, that I'm not, here I am a man. I am, a man. I'm developing myself into a conscious man. I have masculinity, all that stuff, but at the same time, I'm not. So it's almost like there's two different worlds you're living in. It's actually very cool because you see the game, you can play it as a game. You're not so serious, and I think that's just a beautiful thing because you don't take it as serious. But when I say that, um, I take it serious as hell. I take it so serious. Like, if you ever meet me, I'm serious. I'm serious about results. I'm serious about really living a passionate life, really providing value, all that stuff. But at the same time, when I'm with myself, I realize that it means nothing. That, again, this is all blinking infinity. But it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Why should it matter? If you think that's a negative thing where it means nothing, then you're adding a value system to that nothingness. You're choosing what to like. You're choosing if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's actually a beautiful thing that this means nothing, because you can do anything if you're conscious, and remember, this isn't a collective solution, but this is a very individual solution. If you realize this, you can do anything. Nothing's stopping you except you. And that's a big thing I've learned from psychedelics. That was probably my biggest one of those breakthrough experience. That we'll talk about this. This was in another trip. That Hold on, let me see if the camera's on. All right, the camera's on. I always gotta check that. But you know, I'll talk about this in another trip before. But this this right here, just transforming, because when you realize that it means nothing, you know, this was one of the biggest breakthroughs I had. It means nothing, but instead, I was already going through like nihilism and stuff like that. I was dealing with that for like 2 years, and then that breakthrough experience really cut through. I cut through. I pierced it. I saw it, because that's not a bad thing. That this means nothing. Nihilism is true. That there's no meaning to life. Understand this. It means nothing, but at the same time it means everything. Because that's the value of the ego, that you can create your own value. You can value things. You could be biased. That's okay. It's all okay. You don't have to reach God consciousness to be happy. You know, I like touching up to God every once in a while. Yeah, you know, but at the same time, I realize that this is okay. It's okay to be biased. It's okay to like things. It's okay to see beauty in only things that you like, but then also not demonizing other things. And then especially when you're young, like you don't need to be enlightened to be happy, to really live a fulfilling life. You don't need like there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to these things, and you got to develop your own path forward, not just follow other people's teachings and what other people told you. And that's a big thing psychedelics teach you, is that live through yourself, live through your own direct experience, and see what's true for yourself. It's okay to listen to people. It's okay to learn from people. And sometimes the answers are to go to other people for advice. But at the end of the day, go to yourself first. See what's true for you. And that's difficult as hell when you're young, right? Because you don't have a lot of experience. You're kind of still being groomed by society. But you can cut through that and really live your own life. And it kind of hurts because most people won't do this. But if you're serious about life, um, you can do it. I believe in you. I know you can. And how do you do it? Well, I can't give you a formula, but you know, I'll be here. We can go through this journey together. We can do it. But that breakthrough experience really taught me that it means nothing. And you placing a value, a judgment on that nothing, that meaninglessness being a bad thing. That's where the problem arises. Your judgment of that is where the problem arises, because why is that a bad thing? Really ask yourself, if you're going through nihilism, ask yourself why that's a bad thing. Because if you can easily place that negative value on the meaninglessness, you can easily place a positive value on it. You can see that, like I said, that it means nothing, so I can structure reality as I want. And then as you get older, you can deconstruct it and become God. Whatever you want. That's the beauty. Whatever you want. Um, and of course it takes work. Of course it takes fucking hard work. You got to work your ass off for this. But that's the beauty of it too. Like if everyone could do this, then it wouldn't be valuable. You know? And that's just, it's a gift. That's the gift of life right there. That you can do, you can have what you want. You can choose to be who you want. That's the gift. So when I see people, people make videos, they condemn people, they judge people, all this fucking bullshit. Stop watching this shit. All this fucking red pill nonsense. Um, you know, there's so much nonsense out there, and you gotta really work on cutting through the shit and really living your own life. Because you don't know that you're really powerful, you're really intelligent, um, you're really creative. You can develop your own way of going about life and be effective in this world. And that does require that people for advice and stuff like that. But you got to choose carefully who you get advice from, because the old adage, like, when your parents say, you don't know that person online. That's true, right? But it's also, there's fucking awesome people online. Um, and I wouldn't be without the internet. I wouldn't be here. I'd probably be dead, honestly, because at the time I was going through like really bad fucking depression. You know, detox. I filled heavy metals, parasites. My liver was fucked up, all that shit, and I healed all of that. And um, I'm glad I didn't kill myself. I'm so glad, actually, because life is fucking beautiful, even though it hurts sometimes, even though it can be painful. But that's also the beauty of it, because it passes. Good times pass. Everything passes. But what stays is you. What stays is you, sir or ma'am. I don't know who's watching. Like, some people say cigars are bad, whatever. But, like, if you like cigars, right, and you've seen a positive benefit to it, why are you listening to other people? You know, why do you care? And that's the thing I had to realize with weed, personally. All my life I was taught, weed was bad, weed was this. And I still think most people are not using weed effectively at all. Actually, 99% of people are actually abusing the hell out of weed, and it's destroying their life. But you can use weed as medicine. We'll talk about that another day. But you can use weed as medicine. But you got to be really creative with how you do it, and serious about how you do it. So it's like I said, life requires seriousness, but at the same time, it means nothing. So it's that paradox. It's such a paradox, and it can be confusing. It can be, whatever. But you got to be serious. You got to take things seriously. You got to take your life seriously, like it matters. You play the game like it matters, even though it doesn't. Oh man, it's funny. Like, you got to play it seriously, but at the same time, it doesn't fucking matter. And you got to be careful with that, because you can't, like with most nihilists say, it doesn't matter, so I'm not going to do anything. If it doesn't matter, then why do you care? If it means nothing, why do you care? What's really happening here is that you're not serious enough to go all the way through and to realize that you're bullshitting yourself, and you're fucking lazy. You're too lazy to actually have the insight that you're bullshitting yourself. Fucking went out. Jesus Christ. Damn. Where's my lighter? And that's, I went through that too. I've always been kind of, a go-getter and stuff like that, but I was going through this for a while. And like, as I was saying earlier, psychedelics, I see the development I have I'm developing as a man, and being effective in the world, and really creating my own curriculum, and moving forward my own path, carving my own path through the fucking forest like Indiana Jones. Like that. And life is just, it's fun. It's fun. When you learn to handle pain, when you learn to handle suffering, you realize that it's not so bad. Suffering, it lasts, maybe a couple days at the most, and then you're back. Of course, there's degrees. Is that a bee on my neck? What is that? Of course, it lasts, suffering could be. What is on my neck? That's a bee, bro. Get off. Jesus Christ. Dude loves me. I don't know if he likes the cigar smoke. I don't know. They love tobacco flowers. And if you didn't know, I think I said this at the beginning. I grow tobacco. I love tobacco. It's very grounding. Um, you see, tobacco gets a bad rap because, we're going to make a whole video on this. But what it is, that bee is dying, by the way. But what it is, it's the energy of tobacco is a grounding sort of energy. People when they're drunk, they use cigarettes to sober up. I don't recommend that. But what's happening there is that you're all over the place when you're drunk. So the cigarettes sober you up by grounding you. That's the energy of tobacco. That's why I think that tobacco can be a very special plant going into the future, because it's grounding you in your life. And most people aren't grounded. That's also insights I've had on psychedelics, is that, with we're always in our head, in our mind, and we can use tools to ground us in our life. And tobacco is one of those things that has that grounding energy, that, I'm here. When I use tobacco, I'm here. I'm present. I'm here. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm not thinking about the past. And you got to meet it halfway, of course. But, I'm here. And that's why I truly love tobacco, because one of my highest values is groundedness, really being here. Because I've developed my love for life. and I realized the beauty of it and the magic of it. So we're gonna wrap this up. What are my closing words? I still have this cigar, but it was a Churchill, so we're fucking like 40 minutes in. I'm gonna wrap it up. So anything else I wrote here? We're gonna talk about. No, that's really it, honestly. Because I said I was fucked up. It messed. I don't even like that. Messed me up. No, it left a mark on my soul. It left a mark on me. You know, for a little bit, maybe a month, and I began integrating it, and I have no regrets about it. I have no regrets at all. Um, it was a story. It changed my life. And would I recommend doing a heroic dose on your second trip? No, never. Would I go back and do it again? No. But it happened, and I'm glad it happened. So maybe there is, a sort of intelligence with that immature boy kind of mindset. And then with this, I developed my capacity to truly be a man in the world. Of course, I had good parents. I grew up happy home, and that definitely helped. But especially in this day and age, it's hard as a young guy, as a young man. It's hard to navigate the world, really see what you can provide, um, really creating your own rite of passage. And psychedelics have been that for me, along with other things, and we'll talk about that. But psychedelics were that foundation I kind of needed. And I'm a curious case. Like I wouldn't recommend anyone. Most people do psychedelics, 19 years old. Wait till you're older. But I'm a curious case. Um, I'm not saying I'm special here. I'm just saying it's very individual. People can give advice on how to use psychedelics, but you have to know yourself enough to see if you're ready. That's all I'm saying. Um, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this 5 gram trip report. We're gonna name it 5 gram trip report. Um, find the beauty in that. Find the beauty in everything. I don't know what we're gonna call it. We'll figure it out. But yeah. Um, so what are some lessons here? I don't know. I want to kind of give some last insights to what we said here. So if you're going through nihilism, what I would recommend is really questioning, because it's a belief. Your negativity towards it is a belief. And remember, I said just because you believe something doesn't mean it's true. What you want is the truth, because the truth changes your life, and it hurts at first. It stings like a bitch, but then you get through it. You're complaining, oh my god, it fucking hurts. But then you get through it, and it changes your life. It transforms you. So with anything in life, anything you're going through, sit and ask yourself, like really, really, get a cigar, get a pipe, ground yourself in your life, and just think about your life. Just sit in silence and contemplate your life. Do this almost daily. Do this almost daily. Of course, some days are going to be busier than others. I know I like being busy, to be honest. And I like that contrast, like busy, 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 and then rest. I like that. But you got to find your own way. You got to find your own way. So yeah, um, thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. um, so yeah, 5 gram trip report. We're gonna do more of this. We're gonna talk about psychedelics and other substances and how to use them effectively. Because of this, what I love. I just, for some reason, I just love drugs, and I don't even like calling them that. I just say that for ease. I love medicines. I love medicine. I love um, nature. I love just creating things and seeing the value I can provide, and seeing people who can actually, uh, whose life can change because of my creations. So, and yeah, we're gonna leave it on that. Thank you guys for watching. Stay strong, stay beautiful, stay loving, stay truthful, be yourself. I'm just saying, I'm just saying cliches. Yeah. So, guys, we're gonna end it on the cigar puff. Peace. Catch you.